Today's question is, what are the causes of being sleepy after eating?
Yeah, sometimes students notice that after meals they can get really sleepy. It can happen sometimes half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours after a meal, after an ordinary meal. And what would be the causes? Probably the most common single cause, if we take general population, would be overeating. And when people overeat, the body is not able to handle food, and so it would be then the effect of the body trying to digest food, so people can get really sleepy. And one of the big accompanying factors here is that most people eat too fast, and that means we are not digesting, we are not producing enough saliva, not chewing food well enough. And especially certain types of food, so when it relates to digestion, especially certain types of food, we can be problematic for digestion in terms of causing more soiling. And by soiling, I mean that 99% or more of people require toilet paper, whereas, let's say, best breathing students whom I trained, and also those people who have very high body oxygen level, we do not require toilet paper naturally. So that's a very interesting effect, because I believe from evolutionary viewpoint of how humans, how nature created the human being, humans actually do not need toilet paper. And the main factor, if you think about a diet, what would be like the main food that causes soiling, that would be starches and carbohydrates. So starches and carbohydrates, they should be digested probably up to 80-90% with the ptyalin produced in the mouth, with saliva, and that would reduce soiling dramatically. So if somebody wants to kind of address sleepy after eating, chewing food very, very well, especially again we are talking about starches, because this type of food or complex carbohydrates, we require particularly good chewing. And therefore, when we address this factor, we increase our chewing to a very high degree. Like if let's say if you take like a mouthful or a teaspoon of some starches, like be it rice, bread, corn, or whatever, we need to be digested chewed up to maybe 100, 120, often up to 150 times before it becomes liquid, so that without any swallowing movement, it disappears itself just due to effect of chewing the food. And in addition to that, this lifestyle change, very good chewing of food, would allow us to prevent overeating, because when we chew food much better, we will not be able to eat too much. And in addition to that, there is actually a very strong effect, many of my students observed as well, is that when we chew food much better, it's much easier to find the time when it is necessary to stop eating. Because the body has only a certain amount of digestive enzymes, we can call it digestive force, to digest like this meal. But when we eat too fast, it's much easier to overeat, and that can make some people having effects related to sleepiness after meals, sleepiness due to overeating. So that's one factor. Now, a related factor here, of course, it would be even better solution is to eliminate starches, particularly, and complex carbohydrates from a diet using so-called low-carb diet. There are many diets now which are very popular: Atkins diet, Paleolithic, caveman diet, special carbohydrate diet, and we have in common this feature with millions of followers and thousands of testimonials. You can find that these diets work well, but what we have all in common, that we don't have starches and carbohydrates, and that also allows us to have this effect with having less sleepiness after eating, having more energy. So when people switch to those diets which has no starches and reduced level of carbohydrates, especially low carb diet, and especially therapeutic ketogenic diet, so low carb diet, then in this case we can avoid effect of being sleepy after eating. And in addition to that, we are going to have less problems with soiling by reducing soiling ourselves, not using toilet paper, due to greatly improved digestive flora. Now, additional factor here may relate to those people who have problems with Candida infection. The people who have Candida, they can get actually very sleepy even after eating a small meal. So we do not overeat, but we get sleepy because of sugars, table sugar, or fruits, for example, eating fruits. If we eat especially sugary fruits like banana, dried fruits, and growth of Candida immediately after a meal would make them yawn and would make them very, very sleepy within probably up to half an hour, 1 hour after a meal, even though, again, a meal can be really small. So in addition, those people who have this Candida yeast infection in the digestive system, we are likely, very likely to experience very cold feet. So when digestive problems are serious, people have in addition cold feet. And solution here, of course, is again the same. We need to, the same as to deal with Candida in general, we need to eliminate simple sugars and have those foods which are relatively safe for them to eat. So that's about about why people get sleepy after eating and what are the causes and what are the steps which can be taken.
Well, one point I would like to add that you said previously. So I think it would be a good idea then to have some time for mindfulness, just kind of tune into yourself to notice if you're hungry and to notice even why you're eating, or if you're maybe eating just for some kind of emotional reasons, or just taking out the time to just kind of notice how you feel before you start eating as well.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that here it relates more kind of to knowing your body in terms of do you really need to eat right now? Because overeating is a huge problem, like more than half of population in the Western world suffer from overeating. And here, yeah, various techniques can be used. One we discussed, actually having low carb diet is a great thing as well, because in this case, people actually notice we have much stronger sensation when to stop eating, whereas carbs actually makes people eat more. So that's one effect. Another kind of method or technique which some people found very useful is when you think that probably it's enough to stop eating, you may stop eating with the idea that, okay, if 15 or 20 minutes later afterwards I'm still hungry, then I'm going to eat. Okay? And that helps to a lot of people. It's a like very useful kind of simple, easy technique that you can easily, again, test. Okay, you want to eat less, you want to maybe lose weight in addition to that, and you have this problem with being sleepy after meals. So you just maybe cut your meal in half and then wait for 15-20 minutes, see that if you're hungry, because again, that's also relates to kind of two things, having carbs, one problem, and then eating too fast is another problem. And when we have two of these factors together, that actually causes a lot of health problems. So the idea related to like monitoring, are we really hungry? Maybe we don't need the food even, so maybe we can have smaller meal or take out some parts from the meal. Yeah, it can also make total sense.